welcome to Tireless Seekers. Again, it's me, Archie, with Shaun. This is our first episode of this week. How are you doing?
Been a long week.
It's been a long week, eh? Yeah.
Well, it's barely been a week since we had the last episode. It feels like a full week.
Yes. I don't know. It's kind of a weird day today. Like I was saying to you earlier, I'm kind of feeling a little bit down, whatnot. And I suppose maybe the topic that we're going to be talking about today kind of feeds into that.
Yeah.
I don't know if my downward energy is feeding into the topic that we're talking into today.
I must confess, I've been feeling a little bit uninspired this weekend. That's why I texted you and asked what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't too sure. I was feeling a little numb. This whole week I've been watching talks from conference talking about the atonement. And I just felt like the atonement played some significant role in the way I've been feeling lately. And there had to be some kind of solution to its role and how it applies and
cool.
What we can work through.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about, last week we spoke about understanding, and that power doesn't come only from knowledge, but it comes from understanding. And one of the things that we want to discuss today, I don't know if there's an idea that we can throw around, and we would like you to think about it as well, understanding our trials, understanding our challenges, temptation, experiences that we're having in our lives, understanding them, how it can help us to be able to overcome them or come to a better understanding or being able to handle it. Not understanding it sometimes might not help us to come out of the challenge, but sometimes can help us to be able to handle it, to be able to survive the challenge. Maybe
like giving us perspective on
Yes.
why we're going through it.
Yes.
It makes it more manageable.
yes.
Yeah.
So what stands out for you?
I like the thing that you're saying. It's understanding what we're going through, because we spoke about, like you said, empowering us, but in our chat before we started this episode, now we're talking about I guess perspective, things Job went through, things that David went through, and even I guess for the Saviour, a lot of times when he went through things, it was only because of his perspective that he was able to endure the depths of the trials and the torment that he went through. I look at our own lives as well, and they say hindsight is perfect sight.
Yes.
2020 vision.
Yes.
Looking back,
Yes.
if only I had known. And so I think perspective is the thing that helps us deal with it. When we're going through something, we're so consumed by what we're going through that it feels like the world's falling in on us. But after the fact, as we look back, it doesn't seem as hectic as what it was when we were actually going through it. So I think perspective is important, and learning from scriptural records of experiences others have gone through can help us with that perspective. You mentioned Abraham, and just yesterday I was talking to my wife and talking about how it just feels like this year is one thing after the next. It just I understand we already discussed that the need for trial because it helps us grow. But why do I need trial on a daily basis?
Yes.
Now, surely I can get a holiday in between.
Yes.
And then you related Abraham and his life and how he also didn't have a break in between. It was also literally one thing after the next. And not just one thing after the next, but also his trials were things that were a trial in his youth as well. I mean, he was retried on things that he'd been tried. And it made it worse because the one thing you've told me is severely wrong. You're now testing me and telling me that I need to commit. And for those that don't know Abraham, he was raised with idol worship, and how he was taught that idol worship was wrong and sacrificing to idol gods was wrong. And then he was asked himself to sacrifice his own son, and that the whole principle was just not sitting well with him, and yet he persisted and he endured it and he stuck with it. So
when we brought up Abraham, another thing that came to my mind is, and I mentioned it to you, that trial that happened with Abraham, it's probably the most brutal way someone can be tested. And we think to ourselves, I mean, I've heard so many people, so many religious leaders, prophets, talk about how each one of us shall be tested the same way, that we have to be proven in the same way. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why do I really, when is my turn coming? Am I going to be asked to sacrifice my son? And I think about, especially with Abraham. We spoke last week about how Adam was given a commandment, and how Adam, he just went and did it because he was so scared of what had happened to him before. Abraham, he's being told to go and do something, to go and kill his son. He also went. He never bothered to ask. And you can almost see maybe the difference in understanding with Abraham. Abraham got his understanding later. But if you imagine what he was going through as he was going through that, walking, I mean, he doesn't just tell him to go and sacrifice his son. He tells him to go far. So Abraham has got days for life to think about what he's going to do. As he's looking at his son, walking with him, and you think of your child. You know, when you know something bad is going to happen to them and you're going to be the reason why it's happening because you've been told to do it. I don't know what was going through his mind. But with every step the animals were taking and every step that he took.
It was so much easier just to cry with passion in the moment, just
exactly.
stab him, it's over and done with.
Over and done with.
Yeah.
But no, he's got to go through it slowly.
Yeah.
And he's got to go through the process. And only at the end, when it's finally revealed to him why he's doing it, the Lord spares his son.
It was right at the last moment. He was willing to do it.
Moment.
Literally did, yeah. And talking about Abraham, we also mentioned David and what a phenomenal king he was and how blessed his life was throughout his life. I mean, he was the same David as David and Goliath. And the Lord was with him throughout his life. And he blessed his people always. But he seemed to have been almost born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And you compared the life of David to the life of Abraham and how Abraham had trials throughout his life. And he stayed faithful. He was strengthened through those trials. Whereas David seemed to fall at the first trial that he received in seeing Uriah's wife. He fell at that temptation and then continued to spiral in that temptation. And so, in a sense, you can almost consider the daily trials we go through as a blessing because the Lord keeping us, it's a daily spiritual exercise, I guess. Without that, at the first sight of problems, you would also fall, you'd crumble, I see that in so many people's lives throughout the world. I said the exact same thing to my wife yesterday, saying life is so difficult. And literally yesterday I said to her, I don't know how people who don't have the gospel in their lives manage with the trials of life. Because it's only my faith in my Saviour and my perspective of why we're going through this that helps me endure it. If I didn't have the eternal vision that I have, or the understanding of the plan of our Heavenly Father, I would think the world's out to get me. There's no hope, there's no purpose, there's no reason. Why must I go on? And you can kind of understand why people commit suicide or why people choose to take the easy way out. Not that suicide is easy, but it's, I think perspective and understanding why you're going through it, it really, really helps.
We're talking about perspective. I'm thinking of what happened to the prophet Joseph. He had gone through so many trials that he's going through. It was so hard. And the Lord comes to him and says to him, why are you crying? You haven't even been tested as Job was tested. You haven't even arrived there yet. And you're already mourning. You know. And we think what he had gone through was so bad. It was so bad and so trying, so tough. And he's being told, yet you have not been tested as Job. And we think of ourselves, what makes us so special that we shouldn't go through the same? If we want to go where those people have gone, where we believe they are going, to heaven, if we want to be with God, why should we be spared? In our trials, because we spoke about the longevity of these trials, and some people could be thinking about what happened with David and thinking, no, David was tried. And he also suffered and he went through this. If you think about it, when David killed Goliath, David wasn't even required to be at war. It wasn't even the war that he was required to be fighting. And the Lord was with him and blessed him and helped him to save people. So it's almost like the Lord reveals his hand to David when he's still very young and helps him. Or when Saul is hunting him down, David would always be warned. He would always be warned. And David would always be able to escape and whatnot. And when what happened with him at the end, when he wasn't where he was supposed to be, he makes his big mistake. He had many opportunities to correct that. He could have stopped himself, but he kept going. He had lost perspective. You almost get to a point where you start to rely on your own strength. So when we talk about trials, I think for me, what's important is for us to understand our trials, not in relation to us, but in relation to what God wants to achieve with us. So if I'm going through this trial, whatever's happening with me, what does he want me to learn? If I start there, I think it makes the trial not necessarily easier, but it gives me the perspective to keep going. The trials that we spoke about, the family trials that we go through, And we think, I just said it to you, that if we consider these people in the scriptures or in history that we hear about that fought these great wars and whatnot, their biggest trials were not the public challenges that they had. It's the private things that they had. It's the family things.
Everyone can relate to that, I think, because as much as you're saying, understanding the greatest perspective, we all have individual trial, and time and time before you've spoken to me about wheat and tares, and that's also been on my mind a lot, wheat and tares, and it makes me think that there's no people as a whole that are good people, and people as a whole that are bad people. Everyone's going through individual things, so we are amidst good people, so to speak, a group of good people, but each of those good people are fighting the individual battle themselves. We're all at war with a circumstance in us, so as a whole we aren't all good or all bad. No, we all got elements within us, so we're all fighting, and we can't really think, well, I'm in a safe zone now. I'm isolated.
I've arrived.
I'm in a good place. I'm isolated, and I'm free from all of this trial. There's still individuals fighting their own battles, and in those battles they're going to be shots fired that are going to go astray and hit us. And we can't take it personally. I think you put it last year saying, half of the trials that we go through are both for our benefit and those around us. So although I'm going through something, the way I respond to my trial will possibly be a trial to you. And that is the trial that the Heavenly Father has put before you. It's not that I'm imposing my trial on you, but you also need to go through something, and I just happen to be around. So Heavenly Father is using me as a tool to help you improve your characteristics and your tests. And once again, perspective. We're able to manage those things a lot better when we not just look at the full perspective, but also we understand and have the perspective of the other person that's going through the trial too. We aren't just immediately judging them to say, well, this is what they're going through, but we understand where they've come from and why they're going through it, and it helps relate them as a person.
It's the genius of the Lord, that he can through your trial try me also. And take an example of someone. Let's say, for example, you have a neighbor or a family member, someone who's very close to you, and they go and say something bad about you. Okay, so it's gossip, it's slander, and you are so upset. It could be true, it might not be true, but for the purpose of discussion, let's say it's true. You have done something that is so bad that you're struggling with, and a family member goes and shares it with someone else on a public platform, and they talk about it. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, oh, how can you be like this? You're so bad. And then you start fighting together. If you think to yourself, well, what can I learn? What would the Lord want me to learn from this experience here? This person has taken your personal trial and made it a public thing. It's a bad thing. It's very terrible. And it would likely fracture your relationship. But if I try, and I struggle with this, if I try to say, I wonder what they're going through in their life that they thought they could find joy from looking at my life. Maybe they are going through something. So immediately excuse them. The natural thing to do is to attack them back and also expose what they're doing. But if I just think, what can I learn? How can I be a better person? How can I help this particular person here? And it's difficult, I promise you. It's the hardest thing that you can do.
And it's not always a case of helping somebody else. I mean, sometimes you have a complete idiot in your life.
Yes.
Who's afflicting,
and they're out there.
Afflicting you to no end. But the Lord has an understanding of why he's there.
Yes.
So what your actions towards that idiot of a person is of no consequence, because it's not going to help that person. That person will still be an idiot after the fact. But the Lord has placed them in your life to bless you in some unseen way.
To try you.
And that made me think of that other experience of World War II with the bishop who was serving over a congregation, and he was a member of the Nazis. And the Gestapo came in to come and wipe out anybody that was opposing them. Or as general members of the church, they could probably be looking at this guy and thinking, how on earth could they put a Nazi at the head of this organization?
Brethren are not inspired.
Yes. I mean, he totally opposes everything we teach and believe. And yet, he's now be called as the leader of our congregation.
I wonder how the Lord is working.
Is the church still true? Yeah. And yet, the Gestapo burst into this meeting and would have mowed them all down had they not seen one of their members standing at the pulpit leading the congregation. And so...
How many lives were saved because of that?
And this man probably wasn't a good man. Like you were saying earlier, he probably caused great doubt, spiritual doubt in many members' minds. And a great affliction. But yet those members who went to that trial, like you're saying, were spared because their purpose of life wasn't done yet. The Lord still needed them and preserved them, even though the way of being preserved was unrecognizable to them. After the fact, they could look back and say, well, okay, he's been removed from his place now. He served his purpose. A bishop generally serves 5 years, which is a fraction of time in the Lord's time.
Yes.
But
That's a moment.
But for 5 years of service, he served his purpose for one day. That's the only reason he was called.
How many lives did he save?
He spared the whole congregation. And so sometimes we might be going through something and thinking this guy is totally off the mark, but yet he serves a single purpose. Yes, his purpose might have been half an hour or one interaction with you,
Yes.
and his purpose has been served, and that he is removed and taken back where he needs to go. So sometimes I don't think we must get tangled up too much with people that we associate with. You know, like you're saying, perspective. What does the Lord want me to learn out of this? What is the purpose of this encounter? And don't take it personally. Don't be. We always counted. Well, we spoke about creation and how the Lord created things to be acted on and other things to act. And we are the creation
We're the
that
agents.
need to act. We need to, and so the apostles often talk about don't react to things. You need to act. So always be in control of your emotions. And when we're able to do that, I think we spare ourselves from greater trials.
And I can almost imagine someone who is driving to work, sitting at home, thinking about what they're going through right now with a boss, with a family member, with a colleague, whatever it is that you're going through, and you're thinking to yourself, oh man, you don't understand what I'm going through. And I don't. And we don't. And we don't have to understand it. But the Lord understands it. He understands it. And He knows why He has put you there. He could remove you from that situation there. He could remove you from that situation in a moment. But until you have... And I don't want to say this because it almost sounds like, this church is saying, no, you must stay there. Because for us, we're not really preaching. We're not preaching. We're just sharing our thoughts. For me, it's almost like you are going through that. It's not that as soon as you understand it, you move out of the way. That's not how it works sometimes. Because these trials, sometimes they work both ways. Both for you and the other person. And you could stay there for a while. Yeah, who is to tell him to take it away? When he's ready to take it away, he'll take it away. I don't know when he takes it away. I don't know whether he takes it away when you understand, or he takes it away when... I don't know. I don't know what it is.
The Lord often says that the gospel will continue to roll on with or without you. And I think we don't quite understand the significance of that. With or without you. Meaning I can get somebody else to do what I'm asking you to do. So just because you're going through a hard time, I need you there. And I don't think we need to be self-righteous about the fact of I'm better than this person and I'm holding fast. But if we can have the faith that I am doing what is right and that I'm standing here for the Lord, I am being an example, then I think it'll help us endure also, because we're not only just enduring, but we're being a pillar of light for the Lord. He needs us there. And if we aren't prepared to put our necks out, He's going to get somebody else who is. And history is filled with people who have sacrificed much, and when they fulfill their purpose, the Lord has then removed that trial from them, or removed them from the trial. But until then, the Lord, he thinks you can still handle it. The fact that you're still there means that He can trust you. He thinks you can go through it.
I shared with you a story about Josiah in the scriptures. A very short reign, short life.
I actually personally, I couldn't even relate to you because I hadn't heard of him before.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Such a short life, He's there. They are killing all the kings and anyone related to the king. His life is spared, and Josiah becomes king, and he destroys the images of Baal, destroys all the things that have been put in the temple, destroys all the temples that were wrong, what tries to clean up. He goes to war. He's killed in a war. Short reign. He's gone. He's done. And we could have looked at his life almost like a footnote in the history. It's like a footnote. But how many other people following him who also said, like what Josiah did, and they went on to do greater things by looking at the example of Josiah. So your experience in your life,
He laid the foundation of goodness.
Yes. It could be a footnote. You could be an Abel, literally. Abel who was just good and got killed, and he moved on. And many other people would always try to live their lives according to that. You made an example of someone who, who is not famous in the world, but in their family, this person is like a rock in their family. And that's what it is about. That's why when we started, I said, all the trials that we go through, they are personal. They're family. And if you think of all the good stories that we want to talk about, they're literally family stories. They're stories about families. Lazarus being raised was a family story. It's because the sister was so hurt by what had happened, went and approached the Lord and cried, and the Lord went and raised them. It's a personal family story. You know, whatever it is, Abraham, the story of Abraham and his son, it's a personal family story. We only hear about it now. If we had an opportunity and a platform where in everyone's life, people could share what they've gone through in their lives, we could write many stories like Abraham, because those stories in the scriptures are personal family stories.
But the stories are significant and important, though. I mean, I think of our last sacrament meeting, our last church service this last Sunday, and the powerful testimonies that were shared, because they came from the heart. They were personal experiences that were shared. And talking to another friend of ours, just talking about how much it helped his family hearing these testimonies. And it dawned on me then how significant it is to share these with somebody, because it helps us process what we're going through, but it also strengthens somebody else. And oftentimes I don't think we share because we don't know who we can trust with what we're going through.
And we shouldn't share indiscriminately.
Yes.
Sometimes we can be very careful what we share, because some experiences are too sacred. But we can share, if we can get to a point where we can have families that we can trust, people that we can trust, and we can share with them. And as we share with them, they get strengthened, and sometimes we even get more strengthened by sharing our own stories. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's essential, I think, that we do reach out. I mean, you take throughout the scriptures also, Lehi, I guess, with his family also. Whenever he had a dream or had an experience, a personal experience that worried him, he called his family together and counseled with them and let them know, this is what I've seen, this is the warning signs, please be careful. We need to do it lovingly, though, at the same time.
Yes.
That we people understand that we're talking to them and counseling with them out of love. You shared an experience that Joseph Smith had with somebody who was allegedly receiving revelations similar to the means that he had used. And he was concerned about it, not jealous, because he didn't want to come across in a jealous way. But when he approached the brother, he was counseled by the Holy Ghost to approach this brother directly and counsel with him. And the brother immediately dropped what he was doing, apologized, and exposed that what he had done was not actually of the Lord. And I think that was a wonderful pattern for us as we counsel with our loved ones, that we help them not out of jealousy or out of reprimand, but to help them see that this is what the Lord wants for us, to be, I don't know, to counsel with the increase of love. Like I said to you earlier, I struggle with that, because for me everything's black and white, and you're either doing it right or you're doing it wrong. And then, by the way, sprinkle, I love you still. You know, we don't increase the love. We don't show them I'm doing this out of love.
And yet people live in grey areas, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, we live with these principles inside us, but the spaces we exist in are grey areas. They're grey in the sense that the good and the bad sometimes are intermingled together. That's why we need the Spirit to guide us. I mean, that story of Joseph, if anything that I can say to people, I wish I could I wish I had a platform where I could say if you go and study the life of Joseph Smith, and not what the critics write about him, but what the people who really knew him wrote about him and the experience that they had with him, you'd realize just the depth of spirit that he had, the understanding that he had. And he never gave the same counsel to the same person who is in the same situation, to different people who are in the same situation. Because he used to say, every single circumstance is different. So when he went and spoke to this person about the same thing, he would give them a different counsel. And he went and spoke to this person here, and he would give them a different counsel. Because we have to take every situation as unique as it is.
I love the fact you pointed out, if you go and study and read the things that encounters people had with Joseph Smith on a personal level.
Yes.
And I think the same for us as well. That increase of love, whether I like you or not,
yes.
The moment I have an intimate and a personal experience with you, I understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I don't like you,
yes.
I still now respect you, because suddenly I've got insights into who you are that now help me understand why you're making the choices you make. And so we become more understanding and more loving towards even the idiots in our lives that are disrupting our happiness and our peace, because they aren't doing it to be idiots. They're
yes.
doing it because it's what they know
yes.
out of the experiences they've had.
And maybe they lack understanding.
And I think that's why I say we need to counsel with others or share with others, because we get to know each other. Even if it's just one thing. This last Sunday, I learned something about somebody I didn't even know. I've known them for a long time, and they shared one thing, just one thing, and it changed my whole perspective of who they are, because I didn't know that about them.
Yes.
And so, yeah, whether you're wanting to get to know somebody as a friend or just as an enemy,
Yes.
just
Get to know
understanding a
them.
little bit about them
Get to know them.
makes you more tolerant of who they are.
Yes, yes. And especially when we're here. I mean, if we're all going to be tried like Job was tried, like Abraham was tried, we can be a little kinder. And this is not kumbaya. This is not kumbaya. We have some really bad people in the world. There are really some really bad people that we should stay away from. And there are some people who are just like stupid, like you said.
They're acting
They're
out of
just
what they
silly.
know.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're just silly. And we could take some time to just say, let me understand this person.
Yeah.
And we might not be able to do it every day, but we could choose one person that we can understand, and by choosing that one person, understanding them, it gives us the perspective to say, I cannot judge that person because I don't understand them.
And sometimes, or always it's helping you, but sometimes it helps them too, because suddenly they have somebody else that's not judging them.
Yes.
Because I've always been just prejudged because I'm this kind of person, but now you understand where I'm coming from and you're actually treating me differently.
Yes.
And it gives me a little bit of hope that I'm not such a bad person. I'm not what everyone else is telling me I am.
Yes.
I can be a little bit different.
You know what, time flies, eh?
It is. And I don't even know if we've actually really delved into what we wanted to cover.
But it's just, I don't know. I'm just hoping if you can take anything from this, it's
if you're doing
perspective.
If you're doing all you can be doing, just keep on doing.
Yes. Don't give up.
There was a phrase from a really bad movie. I want to mention the movie, but the phrase was "keep on keeping on."
Yes.
And I just love that phrase. Just keep on keeping on. Same I made reference to the Frozen 2 as well with honor. Just do the next right thing. Just if you're already doing what you know you should be doing, just keep at it. The Lord has a reason why you must endure whatever you're going through. And Elder Holland, Jeffrey R. Holland. I love him because he puts it straight on the line, and he is not one for mincing words. And he said, sometimes we have trials that we can excuse ourselves from, remove ourselves from a trial, or we can avoid. But at the time, we just got to grit our teeth and get through it. The Lord's not going to remove it from you. It's just something you have to learn. There's something in there that you've got to go through.
I'm telling you.
If we expect to be anything like the Savior, we can't be expected to go through anything less than what he went through.
Yeah.
When we want our rewards, if what we're aiming for is to live with him one day, we have to earn that. That's a whole other topic, talking about grace and earning. We can't earn our way into heaven.
That's a good topic. We should probably do that next.
But we need to be worthy of the grace that is extended to us.
Yes. You're talking about listening to a bad movie and you learn something from it. I mean, there's a song that I was listening to by Jay-Z, and he talks about how some people do this and they talk about me. I do this and I make money. We're doing the same thing, but you do it to talk about me. I do it to make money. And if we switch it around and say, not necessarily about money, but moving on with my life. Some people, they do things and all the focus is on you. And you go on and you focus on life and going through life and moving on.
I've always said this to Ricky as well. It's like, I don't do gossip because my life is interesting enough. If you think my life is interesting too and you want to gossip about it, go for it. But my life is interesting enough to not have to worry about
on its own, eh?
Yeah. But awesome, as
usual. Thank you, man. I love this. I love this discussion here. I don't know if we got to everything, but we'd like to hear from you guys. If you can tell us, what you're going through, maybe something that you're going through in your life, and you can share. And if you have learned something from us, again, we want you to comment. Give us comments. If there's something that you want us to discuss, then we can discuss it here.
Don't just like and share, because that's just going to bat our ego. We actually want interaction from you guys.
We'd like to know what you're going through yourselves. Yeah. And sometimes, it could be, make it short. And then if we can, you can send us a long thing that we can hear more about you, and then we can discuss it. But don't worry about the critics. Let's keep moving. Stumbling blocks, make them stepping stones, I suppose.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining. Subscribe, like, and share, like we say.
All the best.
Yeah. Thanks, man.